Welcome, everybody, to another episode with the Legacy Wealth Capital Group partners. I got Sean and Kyle here. Kyle, we missed you last week, but you're here tonight. How you feeling tonight, guys?
Good,
Yeah,
great.
feeling well, feeling well. I
Feel well.
apologize, man. On the road, but I apologize.
Oh, all good. Something that I want to talk about tonight, and we're not going to keep you guys long as you listen in, but Kyle, you sent earlier a gentleman talking about more so the founder, but he talked about the difference between the founder, an owner, an entrepreneur, and there are a lot of nuances between those roles. But I want to take a twist on that because I want to talk about the founder who's working 60 hours a week and they're trying to grow their business, but they're stuck. And they may have done 500,000, a million, 2 million, 3 million in one year, but they find themselves trapped. They don't have a business, they have a glorified job, or even worse, they might have a prison. And this is the founder. If you're listening, you feel stuck, you're burnt out, you're tired, you have a team, but everything still relies on you. You don't take vacations, you're missing the family dinners, you're in the office all the time, you're working weekends. I'm talking to you, the founder who has a great idea. You're actually catching some steam, but there's something holding you back from going to the next level. And Kyle and Sean, I want to bring that to the forefront tonight because we talk to business owners every day. And you have two sets. You have the sets that are trying to get started. They're true entrepreneurs, and then you have the set that gets stuck. And they're not scaling beyond that $10 million mark. They're kind of in that 1 to 10 level. I want to jump in first because when you guys took your company public, there was a lot of nights you talked about before how you and Sean worked late up together. Your wives thought you was cheating on them because y'all was working so much. We know that there's a season where that's necessary, but talk about the impacts of continuously doing that.
Mm, You want to start with this, Sean?
Yeah, it's funny because what a lot of people don't know, it wears and tears on your body. When you work in these long, crazy hours. I mean, Cal and I, we were partners, and he ended up getting sick. And then soon after, I started getting sick, and everybody know, 2015, I was paralyzed, um, and I really didn't start walking until 2018, and then I broke my hip in 2019. So, but you know, we were working crazy hours, and the office pretty much depended on us. If we didn't work, the office didn't work. Basically, it couldn't function without us. And that's we look back now and we learn from our mistakes, right? Because now we're like, okay, we're going to hire people to replace us. They can do the job that we can do, and we're not looking for them to take over the business and everything because again, we own the majority shares of the company. So, um, and we are the majority board members as well. So it's virtually impossible for somebody with just enough knowledge as us to take over our business because we hold all of the cards. Um, but we understand that we have to replace us. We can't work these long hours anymore because I'm up there in age, my partner up there in age. Tyrus, you're a spring chicken, so you can work long hours. But
Right,
you
right.
know, yeah, it's difficult, and some people are able to do it, but it affects people differently. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, as you know, as you were saying that, man, it was just bringing the pain back to me, Tyrus. I was just thinking, I was like, man, but when you create something, and that's where we get the thing from, everybody's got the prettiest baby because guess what? At one time, we had the prettiest baby.
Yeah.
And so when that's your baby, you know, you've got to know when to transition and when is that a good time. And to be honest, it's never a good time. But you still have to do it. It's going to be pain, and you got to be ready for the growing pains. You got to be ready for the downtime. You got to be ready for the revenue to drop. You got to be ready for the product not to be as good. But that's part of the growing pains. And what you have to do is you've got to learn to enjoy the process, because I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, Sean and I, we put in a lot of hours. But guess what? I'll be honest with you. I enjoyed it. It was times, because think about it. We were going around the places, and we're a public traded company. We went from a reseller to our own product. We had our own internet service. We had our own telecom service. We had our own, wireless service. I mean, we had our own voice over IP service. We went from reseller to doing. So that took a lot. And then now to go from there and put that in someone else's hands and trust them with it, that was our baby. Who's going to do better than this? Who's going to treat this better than us? And at the time, if we had known, but again, we were young. And again, I tell my wife all the time, hey, I'm stealing sex appeal. But you don't actually realize that, that wears and tears on you, and it's going to wear you down. So I'll go back to that point again. You've got to know when to transition.
I love it. And I want to dive a little bit deeper, because I think most people see entrepreneur or being an entrepreneur, business owner, especially when you look at social media, you have this thought process of it's all fabulous, it's all lifestyle, I'm on the yacht. Most of those people aren't doing that. So I always want to keep it real for the audience. Only about 3% of businesses ever reach $1 million in revenue. 3%. Out of that 3%, about 1% get over the $10 million hump. So sure, you might see a lot of businesses that say they do a lot of revenue, but they're not really keeping that money. They're not profitable. And it's many ways that they move that money in and out. We looked at a company, last night that did $20 million last year, but they negative 15 million on the balance sheet. And so it's not all what you see on social media. That's number one. Number two, Kyle, I love that you brought up there's ebbs and flows in business. I have a client, I've actually had more than one client, that when it became time to hire, they pulled back because their profitability would go down. Of course, you're going to spend some money.
Have
to bring in the right people so you can grow. That money comes back, especially if you hire right and those employees are actually revenue generating employees and they bring more money in. There's a formula to doing this. But it's always that fear thing of trying to hold every penny that you can, and you're really stepping over dollars to save pennies. You're trying to negotiate small percentages in order to try to keep money, but you're still keeping a job. That's what they don't realize. Each one of these founders that I have worked with that are in between that 2 million and 5 million, they're right on the cusp of hiring. They don't know how to manage teams. That's not their skill set. They have worked with virtual people or independent contractors, halfway treating them like employees, so they're not really following the law. And then they wonder why they're burnt out, why they're stuck, why they're still working so much. Like they don't respect, to your point, Kyle, that there are ebbs and flows in business. Sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. Yeah. Like Les Brown says, sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're sad. Business goes up and down, and as you go through each break point, you hit 6 figures, you hit 500,000. You hit 750, you hit $1 million, you hit 2.5. As you go through each break point in business, you're going to lose some money. But if you invested that money right, you will get it back over time. I think it was Richard Branson that said, if you want to be a millionaire, you got to lose $100,000. If you want to be worth 100 million, you got to lose 10 million. And if you want to be a billionaire, you got to be willing to lose $100 million. Now, when I studied Richard Branson and really got deep into what he was saying, he wasn't talking about literally losing that money. He was talking about investing that money into teams, into software, into systems, into processes, into all the things that build your business in order for you to get past a million, up to 10 million and beyond. Now, I want to dive into this aspect because I ain't never heard nobody say it before. Why did your wife think you was cheating on her?
I mean, I'll put it to you. I'll put it to you like this. Sometimes Kyle and I, we didn't get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we would leave early in the day. You know, in the morning, we get at 4 o'clock in the morning. We go home, take a quick nap, be at the office by at least 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sometimes earlier, and then we would repeat the same process. So anytime you know how wives are. You know, when you're not home with them, you're not hugging them, and all of this other stuff, and you're away. They're like, they got to be doing something. You know, so it's just.
But you know what? I remember one time our wives were sitting up there. They were looking at a disc. And when they were looking at a disc, they were like, and this is what's funny. They said, we.
Yeah, we.
They said, we. Remember that? We got our own internet service.
We.
Y'all looking at each other like, huh?
Speaking French.
Yeah, they holding up the disc and they said, we got our own internet service.
Yeah.
Hey, it was theirs by definition of the law.
And getting back to the point too, Tyrus, it wasn't just like we worked one day like that. We worked a long time to where we ain't get home to 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. You know, sometimes we may get off at 10 or whatever, but we worked out we put in some hours. You know, we basically overworked ourselves. We worked ourselves into sickness.
Remember how them guys in San Diego when we had an office in San Diego, and these guys were leaving, and it was probably maybe 8:30 or so, and they looked over at us. They said, "Man, you guys are gonna make it."
Yeah.
That's what they literally told us. They said, "You got," and they were of the other persuasion. They said, "You guys are gonna make it." So you know what? Because you're always here. And
Yeah,
they
we all
told us.
and the building was always closed down when we was in there. It was always closed. We were the only lights on.
Wow. If you're listening and you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, and you're tired of working 60 hours a week, I want to say to you that while I believe that there is a season for it, I don't think that season should last long. I think as soon as you can, bring in that next person to help carry some of that load with you. I don't know if it was David Stewart. It was one of these guys that ended up being worth 3, 4, 500 million. He said his first hire was a CEO because he didn't want to run the company. And he said he couldn't afford a CEO because that's what you listening are probably saying. Well, I can't afford to hire anybody. It has to be me. Well, there are many ways that you can bring in top tier talent without paying premium prices. Now, this is if you structure your company properly. And even if you have an LLC, this goes back to the mindset of, are you really trying to be a multimillionaire? Are you really trying to build a legacy business? Or are you trying to build a lifestyle business that pays just enough for you to take a vacation or two and floss it on Instagram? Because if you're ready to build a legacy business and you create a C Corp, that's where your employee stock option programs come in, where you can pay stock or give stock as an option in lieu of a higher salary. So it's a lower base pay with some stock. Kyle, talk to us a little bit about the janitor from Microsoft.
That's what as soon as you said it, that's exactly what I was thinking. Not only the janitors, the secretaries. The janitors and secretaries from Microsoft were the richest. They were multi-millionaires. Why? Because Bill Gates said to them, you know what? This Christmas, I'm not going to give you a Christmas bonus, but I'm going to give you some shares in Microsoft. Would that be okay? And for those that said yes, they ended up being multi-millionaires. Those that said no, give me my Christmas bonus, they probably still working there. And that's why we have to understand the value of what you just said about, the first person that you heard Dave Stewart say is he hired a CEO. But when I looked at Berkshire Hathaway and I studied their motto, Warren Buffett has 60 CEOs. So think about that. At that time, I believe the stock was like $33,000 per share. And I was like, what in the world? And then you turn around, you take a look, and you start pulling back the cover, and then you see 60 CEOs. So he's not running the business. He's got 60 people that probably got what? Stock options,
Right.
Executive packages, all that's put in there. And it's based on what? Performance.
Yeah.
And
And
if you got stock, what does that mean? You got ownership. So
Yeah.
now, how hard are you really going to work as a secretary? How hard are you really going to get those facilities cleaned and straightened up? Well, guess what? You got ownership. That's why they became multimillionaires.
Yeah. And to add on to it, I believe this is one of my beliefs. When you hire somebody, they have to believe in the company. I remember when some lady had to quit. Her husband didn't want her working or something, working that late or something like that. I forgot the reason, but she literally cried because she had to leave. You remember that count? She literally cried.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You know what I mean?
yeah, so that's one thing that people will, if you get employees that believe in your company, they will work extra hard and they would be
Mm-hmm.
very productive and get things done in your company. And you don't got to really worry about them because they will make sure everything is done right, but they have to believe in it. I don't like hiring people just to pay them a salary.
Right.
Because all they're looking for is the money. So if somebody else come along, they're gone.
Right.
Somebody else, oh, you're doing a good job for them. Oh, I'll give you 10,000 more. They're gone. But if they really believe in your company, and like Kyle said, if they have equity in your company, ownership in your company, and they understand that the goal and the outlook of your company is to go public or whatever your goal is. I mean, hey man, those are the best. Those are the best employees.
Yeah.
You know who else got a lot of millionaire employees?
Hmm.
NVIDIA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think majority of NVIDIA employees are
90%
millionaires.
of it. 90% of NVIDIA
Yeah.
employees were millionaires, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All stock options.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about NVIDIA is the highest value publicly traded company at a $4 trillion market cap.
Crazy.
This is the part where you as a founder, as an owner, have to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what am I building?
Mm-hmm.
Am I building just something to get me day to day, by and by, where I struggle? Am I bought into the hustle culture where I got to grind and this is what I do, and you feel like you have a badge of honor because you grind all day and all night, but you still don't have anything to show for it? I want to give you guys just 2 or 3 of the pieces of our system that we take our clients through. We developed the Legacy Business Operating System. And this system is basically the infrastructure you need in order to scale your business to 7 figures, 8 figures, and beyond. Number 1 is vision. Now, you might say, well, vision is not necessarily infrastructure, but it is essential. Because if you have limited mindset, you won't even hear what we're talking about as far as giving employee stock options, giving phantom equity, giving actual real equity in an LLC, because you want to have 100% of a grape instead of 10% of a watermelon. So I really want you to think about what your vision is for your business. I don't want to put out where I heard it because I got people all over listening. But somebody very close to me came and said that somebody came and told them an idea of, oh, you can just get a couple of t-shirts and sell those over the summer. And I told him, I said, you know what? I am tired of the idea of everybody needs to sell t-shirts and merchandise. That is such a small thing. You can build almost any type of business you want to build. And with AI backing you, you could become the next $1 billion business with AI tools alone. Why go out and try to start another t-shirt business? That's how many publicly traded t-shirt companies do you know? How many billion-dollar t-shirt companies do you know? I mean, Damon John did pretty darn good for FUBU, and then you got Sean John out there, did it in great light, but you have some major clothing brands. But how many people are out here I don't want to see another t-shirt. We got enough t-shirts. And that's some of the mindset is, oh, you can just do this and make a couple dollars. No. Go out and start a real business. So I want you to think about your vision. That's number one. In our system, we get the vision down pat. I don't want to work with you if you don't want to be $1 billion business. At least have the vision. Now, Les Brown said, shoot for the stars. And if you don't hit the stars, shoot for the moon. If you don't hit the moon, at least you'll land in the stars. Shoot for $1 billion. And if you don't hit it, at least you'll fall on 100 million. But I'm not really trying to help you build a $50,000 a year business. Yeah. It's not worth it to me. I can go work a 9 to 5 and make that money easy without sweating, without 60-hour weeks, without worrying about payroll, without worrying about merchandise and fulfillment and products and shipping and all that other stuff. Get your vision right. Before I go to number 2, what your guys, because you've been through this, you've worked the 60-hour, 80-hour weeks, you've been sick from doing it. How important is vision now? Because Kyle, I want to go to you first, because when we first got together and started talking, the thing you said the most was, I'm not trying to run another business. So there was some vision there. Talk to me about that.
Well, even though what we did and all the accolades and everything that we were able to do, there's pain. Okay. And you feel that pain. So one of the things that I would I guess you could say I would kind of recollect or I think about like, what could we have done different? What would we have, if we would do that now, today? We didn't have some of the tools that are out there. So, you talking about having vision now. I mean, think about like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and, LinkedIn. We didn't have that. Our vision had to come from, again, our network. Who do we know that was in our space that we could either move together, or we could team up with, or we could make certain things happen. But we didn't have access to tools. There was no Chat GPT. You know what I mean? How do you get somebody's phone number? Oh, Chat GPT. Well, we didn't have that. You know what I mean? We literally had to, you had to know somebody. And when you knew somebody, guess what? You had to be talking to somebody that was better than you, because their network was better than you, can drive you to the place you need to go. But guess what? They were protecting that. They were guarding that. So we had vision, and that's why we were able to do what we did, because we were always thinking further than that. But vision is, you said it right there, but the good books, or I don't want to say the good book, but some people have vision but yet can't see. And so that's what, we wanted to make sure that people understood. But I'll share with you one thing that somebody said to me. And again, this was somebody else that we were working with or looking to do some business with. And he told me about the book called The E-Myth Theory. Mm-hmm. And to this day, there's nothing wrong with reading, getting books, getting knowledge, making sure that you could, again, put something in your mind to change the way you think. And I just remember that book, The E-Myth Theory, that literally taught me how to work on my business, not in my business.
Yeah, that's good. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening, want to check out a book that talks about not just being the operator in the business, baking the cakes, baking the pies, but being the owner and running the business so you can scale. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Kyle said. I just think that, when you're trying to run a business, and this is a little off the topic, when you're trying to run a business, again, you have to have people that's dedicated to your business. You got to, for those people, like you're bringing in CEOs and things of that nature, don't forget and let's say your money is a little short, you don't want to bring in a CEO, but don't forget that you can raise capital to do it. So you can raise capital to build your company. and part of that money that you bring in can be used for payroll. So now you're able to pay those people that are a little bit smarter than you. Cal mentioned earlier we didn't have nobody to go to, and they protected their network. Well, when you're raising capital, you hire people with those networks. You're capable of doing that when you're raising capital. So now you're bringing on people that can actually push your business forward. So, excuse me, you're raising capital to bring in the money so you can hire people that can push your business forward. Um, and so I think that's a big opportunity for a lot of companies. A lot of companies, well, my revenue is only 500,000. If I pay somebody 250,000, I'm not going to have that much money left to pay myself and stuff and pay other people. Well, raise capital, grow your business, raise capital.
I like that, Sean, because I like the raising capital to bring on the talent. And if you bring the right talent, they will bring more talent and probably more capital.
Yep.
Because if you look at Silicon Valley, that's essentially what they do.
Yeah.
They will go from zero, raise 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars from their network, and then hire people that they used to work with in the other company.
Yep.
So now they're talking about, of course, Mark Zuckerberg. They claim he going and poaching different people from different companies, paying them exorbitant salaries, 200 million, 100 million. But he is raising capital. Elon Musk is raising capital. They're not spending a dime of their revenue earned from the business or their money. They have investors who see the vision. Going back to, that's why we said our number one thing in our system when you work with us is vision first, because when you can sell the vision, you bring the people who can give you the capital to hire the people that can help you scale. And you don't have to do it alone. And so there are so many ways to make this work. I want to move into number two. Number one was vision. Number two is, as you begin to hire and bring people on, you always want to have that marketing engine dialed in. Lead generation, lead attraction, people coming to your door to work with you. Most business owners who get stuck at 3 to 5 million, not only do they not have true teams to help them grow, they lack that marketing engine. They got to $1 million off of networking, off of referrals, and that dries up at some point. I worked with a lady, and she said to me one time, she said that you don't have a business if you know all your clients. Meaning, if somebody referred them and you had some sort of relationship, or if you had a relationship and you got this person, or if everybody in your business, you know them from 1 or 2 degrees of separation, you don't have a real business. I think about an industry that this is so true in: realtors, real estate agents. Most real estate agents churn. They don't last more than 2-3 years. That's about 80%. And the ones that do last, most of them don't do many deals. But who are their first deals? Friends and family.
Family, yeah.
And why can't they grow? Because they don't ever get beyond friends and family. Once you sell houses to all your cousins, all your aunties, all their friends, and now it's time for you to lead generate or attract new clients that you don't know, that don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you, the business folds. So the number two thing you want to establish and lock in your business is that marketing engine. Bring in new, fresh leads in every day while you sleep. This should not be dependent on you. It should be a system. And the third system, I'll go ahead and just drop this in. It's not next. I'm not giving you all the steps in order. But the third system that you need is fulfillment. When somebody pays you for something, deliver the product. That's it. Give them what you promised them. There's a community out there. A guy reached out to me. He said, "Man, they got 2,000 or 3,000 people in the community. No support.
Mm.
If you don't get your login, you just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no help. You paid $3,000 to be a part of this program where you may or may not get an email login, and then you got to do a chargeback to get your money back. If you get your login and you get in the community, you might be able to do something. But the information, now this is what they told me. They said the information is from 2020 about stocks. If you looking at 2020 information about stocks, you better learn something else, because I don't know how much money you're going to make. Fulfillment system. It should not be dependent on you to fulfill the product. It should be a system. Whatever your business is, it should be from the moment I close, I should get everything I need that you promised me when I paid. So those are the 3 systems that I want you guys to take away that will help end that 60 hours a week that you're working. Give you some time back with your family. It'll allow you to have some hobbies. It'll keep you from being sick. I used to work at UPS back in 2006, and we had a floor supervisor. Boy, he worked. He ran those trucks, hollering all over here. Worked 3 shifts. UPS had 3 shifts. Worked them all. Grinding. His supervisor patting him on the back. One day we didn't see him. Now he don't even own his business. He don't own UPS. He probably have some shares, a little bit, because they give a little stock.
Yeah.
What happened to so and so? Collapsed on the floor.
Wow.
Was in the hospital for weeks. Burnt out. Overworked.
Yeah.
Over leveraged. Your body will shut down on you eventually.
Yeah.
You cannot hustle and grind it 24/7 and reach any level of growth. Now, you might do a sprint, and you might sprint to $1 million. But when you talk about 5, 10, 15, 20 million plus, that's a marathon. That's a marathon with the baton. I need to pass it off to somebody. And they got to pass it off to somebody. And it got to circle back around, and we be a team. I'm going to ask you guys this, and we'll get out of here. Do you think, honest, just when you think back to what you guys went through as you built, you worked as venture capitalists, you learned the game, you were resellers of a product, you end up taking that, becoming and owning it, taking a company public. Do you think you could have done it alone without the other person?
That's a good question. I think we're capable of it, right? I mean, Kyle, he's a brilliant guy, businessman. I consider myself pretty smart as well. But I believe that a lot of times what happens is this, right? I think the bouncing off of each other's head is important. And I'm talking about shooting each other ideas, I think that's very important, because a lot of times that became a product, or that became a price point, or that was, we bounced it off each other's head, and it became, we can't do that. That's too, it's never going to work like that, So I think technically we could have done it, but I think I was, me personally, I was fortunate because, Kyle is such a smart person,
Yeah. Yes, I feel the same way Sean said. We probably could have, but I probably would have got sicker, faster, and more. Yeah. Because I was able to, the one thing about what we did and what we were doing is that a trust factor. And I believe that's where some people, when they're operating their business, you've got to thoroughly trust that individual. I knew that I could step away and Sean would get it done. He knew that he could step away, I would get it done. So when I knew that he was over there on the JMI side, working JMI Telecom, I didn't have to be concerned with that. I was able to be on the juice marketing side, handling that. And it allowed me to be able to work on our public trader side. When you go public, we didn't realize that because we'd never been public before. But when you go public, that's a whole nother business in itself.
Yeah.
Just being public, dealing with shareholders, making sure that you're pushing the stock, the NOBI list, the knock list, everything that goes on with that, getting the shares out to people, talking to investor relations, making sure that, that was a whole, the transfer, the transfer agent, that was a whole nother ordering shares, making sure there's enough when they call up to them. Measuring, knowing what shares are going out, talking to the SEC attorney. That was a whole business just by itself. So, yeah, you're talking about, could we? I wouldn't want to do that and run JMI and run, juice marketing. No, I would have died faster, sooner.
You might not even be here.
And Cal made a great point, because what a lot of people don't know is they know the telecommunications side, they know the publicly traded side, but they don't know the network marketing side. They don't know the meetings we used to have, 2-3 times a week, something like that.
Yeah.
At nighttime. And then the Saturday meetings in the morning, so and then the just meeting people, going out and meet people at a hotel, driving here, driving there, flying here, flying there, flying to Vegas, flying all over, so we really put in some hours. So not only do we have to, like Cal said, worry about the, ordering certificates and making sure the transfer agent was doing right and everybody else was doing right, running the office and everything, but we had a network marketing division to run as well. So again, doing presentations constantly, day in and day out, so we had 3,000 something people in the network marketing.
Yeah, on the road.
Yeah,
meeting new people, flying out folks. It was, like I said, if you think about it, it just started from a concept and an idea, and we were able to take it to that next level. But still, I always kind of think back, like, where was that transition point for Jeff Bezos?
Mm-hmm.
Where was that transition point for, Bill Gates? Where was that transition point for, Henry Ford? When did he know? And thing is, Henry Ford waited too long. He missed out on a lot.
Yeah, JP Morgan did as well. They talk about how he was basically in the day-to-day in the business till he turned it over to his son and died. Mm-hmm. And that his son kind of pushed out decision making to others and allowed them to be a part of that business. But those early founders, them jokers was in it. They was in it. They were making the deals. They were calling the meetings. I was talking to a guy today, and I was talking to him about just the difference between a personal brand and a business brand. And a lot of times we look at personal brands from the standpoint of the influencer world. And now we're getting off topic, but I'm going to share it anyway. So y'all just stay with us. We look at personal brands from the influencer, entertainment. And some people want a business brand. They want to feel that the business is what's being pushed out there. I was one of those people. But then I started thinking about JP Morgan, all of those guys, Sam Walton. They had personal brands. Like, the business was them. They created everything. And people knew them. Yes, US Steel. Yes, General Electric. Yes, all of these different things, but who runs it? JP Morgan. Who controls it? JP Morgan. Right. And so they had personal brands. It wasn't Ford. It was Henry Ford. Right. We're talking about Henry Ford. And I think that all of them, they were coming up, they were establishing the blueprint for us. So I cut them a little slack on waiting too long. They were putting the blueprint out. What I want to say to the audience as we get ready to leave is really think about, and I believe if you are a solo founder, entrepreneur. I was actually looking at an email from Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. They're having a meetup here in Maryland, and they said that you got to be doing 75,000, and you got to have at least another W-2. They're not interested in solopreneurs. I believe personally, somebody asked me this maybe a year or so ago. They said, Tyrus, why do you look for partners? Why don't you just do it yourself? And I thought that was just like, I don't want to do everything by myself. Like, that's a lot of weight. I don't care how smart you are.
Yeah.
You get tired of carrying all the weight, thinking all of the decisions, handling everything. I think that every business should have 3 partners, minimum. You have a partner that's the face. They're out there doing whatever, investor relations, talking to people. They're the face of the business. You have another partner who is the internal face, meaning they talk to the employees, they handling HR, they doing everything on the inside of the business. And then you have one that's just the technical person. That person is keeping they're the operations. I believe every business should have 3 founders, 3 partners, 3 people to, again, odd number, a tiebreaker, but have those different personalities that work in those different angles so you can spread faster. The most successful businesses I have seen has been a group of people who started, whether or not they stayed together forever. It wasn't just Warren Buffett. He had Charlie with him, and it was a couple of other people there. Yeah. It wasn't just Steve Jobs. It was some other people with him. It wasn't just Bill Gates. Now, you may or may not know the names of those other people, but if you research them, they are out there. It was never just one person. It was always 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them that came together. Because with Apple, it was 3. It was Steve Jobs, it was Wozniak, and it was the guy that sold his shares for what, a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. It ain't funny, but he was there.
I remember hearing about that.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Exactly.
And his 2 college roommates. And then after that, when he blew up, they sued him later on, and they made a little bit more money. But yeah, same thing.
In the beginning with McDonald's, it was the McDonald's brothers and Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc, yeah.
Now, he did what he did and whatever. History's history. But it wasn't just him. They were there. They were the operations. He was the face. Yeah. He took their vision to a whole other level. And then they tried to, I don't even know if they ever got the money they were supposed to get. But it happened. So if you're listening, you're working 60 hours a week and you're tired, you're burnt out, you're frustrated, you're not getting enough time with your family, you don't know why you're doing it anymore, you want to have more than just a lifestyle business, think about the things that we told you. Vision, marketing, fulfillment, partners. That's what the Legacy Business Operating System is all about. Now, we got a webinar coming up end of this month, July 24th, buildtosellchallenge.com. Check it out. It's free and no cost to you, where we're going to dial into these systems a little bit more, a little bit deeper, and help you take your business from where it is today to the next logical step, whatever that is tomorrow. And all you got to do is implement it. Not hear it, not think about it, not ideate over it. Implement it. Sean, Kyle, any last things before we get out of here?
Yeah. One thing, Tyrus, you said fulfillment. Does that include automation? Automating the business so it runs without you?
Absolutely.
Does that include that? Okay. Yeah, that's the ideal business, is for a business to run without you, you know? So, but one thing I do want to say is, in this, when you're running a business, again, you want to just hire people, that love what you're doing, that want to be a part of it. Yes, the pay is important, but also the love for what you're doing is important. Um, you want to get people that that have a previous, if it's possible, that have a previous network, so it can help you grow. Um, and like Tyra said, you got to have somebody to be able to bounce out ideas off of. That's probably a little bit smarter than you, because again, when it was Cal and I, we were looking. It was nobody that was doing what we were doing, and then you had some people that was, the Bezos and the Gates of the world. They're unreachable. But you just can't call your friend up and say, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" Because they don't understand what it's like to have a publicly traded company. So, we that's how we made decisions a lot of times, just by bouncing things off each other's head, and that's what's so good about having a partner. I would say, and now it's 3 or 4 of us now, and we're able to bounce things off of each other's head and complement each other's um, efforts and each other's talents. I mean, like I said, Kyle, he's good what he does, and Tyrus is good what he does, and Brandon's good what he does. But that's what I want to say. Good luck, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you.
Kyle, what you got?
Yeah, I would say iron sharpens iron. And so think about it. You're looking at that sword, you're looking at that axe or whatever it is, and it gets dull. If you're going to get it sharpened, what does that mean? That means something's got to get cut away. It's going to be some pain, some growth. It's like pruning a vine. You got to cut it back to make it grow more. So, again, we might not like when we're going through that, and it might be painful and everything, but that's needed for growth. And if you're going to grow, you have to make sure you understand that time is coming, and just be ready for it, experience it, grow through it, and, just get on the other side of it. But don't harbor in it. We always say the road to success leads straight through the dumps. Just don't park there. You know what I mean? Every time it rains, a rainbow comes out. So, in order to have a rainbow, it's got to be raining. So, I just want to make sure you understand that as you're scaling and growing your business.
Real quick, Tyra,
Go forward.
real quick. This is really important. Also, look for different functions and different type of employee things from the city, right? Because we were able to hire people and the city paid for it. So now you have basically free labor, right? And the reason why I found out is because a bookkeeper let us know what was happening, and we had to apply for it and things of that nature. But we were able to get, I don't know how many people, maybe at least 20 or something like that. That was basically free.
Yeah.
We paid the payroll, and then the city reimbursed us. So look for activities like that, because a lot of cities, they do things for unemployed people, and there a lot of times is in their budget they'll pay for them to work. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, and that was
That's
good because
awesome.
also the minority diversity supplier certification. Once we got that, we were in North Carolina and South Carolina minority diversity supplier. So therefore, there's certain contracts out there that 10% of that contract has to go to a minority-owned, woman-owned, veteran-owned
Yeah,
business.
yeah. And a lot of times too, it's easy pickings, because you'll get a business, like for example, we was in the telecommunications industry, right? So it's not really that many minority-owned telecommunication companies with contracts with one of the bigger companies. So they had to dedicate 3% of their service to a minority-owned company. Well, if we're the only one, you put yourself into a prime position to get that contract.
That's thinking a little bit bigger than t-shirts. At the barber shop. I gotta get off of that. I gotta let that go.
And don't forget about the government contracts too, because
Yep.
a lot of times with government contracts, they have the need for something in your industry. So that's a huge one too.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we might pick up on that topic of government contracts, certifications, and how you can utilize those to take your business to another level, and what you need to do in order to position your business to be successful when going after government and state contracts. So we'll do that next week as our topic. We want to thank you for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate you. You will not come here and leave without having something practical to go and implement into your business immediately. It might not be entertaining as you want it to be. Might not be riding in the ship and off the boat and hanging on the side of a Lamborghini and running with our shirts off. But I promise you, you stick with us, get this information, you will be able to do whatever you want to do because you will have freedom of choice, freedom of time, and freedom of wealth. We'll talk to you soon. See you all next week. Thank you and have a great one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good